stronger, more equitable Milwaukee. Loved what County Executive Crowley had to say about the museum's commitment to equity and inclusion on this project. It's a huge part of how we envision the work that we do with the city of Milwaukee, and so glad that the county and the museum are leaders in that effort as well. So I'm thrilled to see the largest cultural project in the state's history. Let that soak in. The largest cultural project in the state of Wisconsin history make this investment in the Haymarket District, the historic Haymarket District, just across from Deer District, where there's no shortage of things to do there, and we're adding to that. We are going to the corner of 6th and McKinley. The museum is going to serve as this new gateway to downtown Milwaukee, while also being a gateway from downtown to the broader community. And I'm so pleased that the museum, in this process has continued to engage the community in conversations about what the future of the museum ought to be. Among the things that were made clear in these discussions are that the building must be iconic. It has to be connective to nearby neighborhoods, and it has to be accessible to pedestrians and bicyclists. It's no coincidence that all of these are also priorities of our new downtown plan update at the city, and the museum's commitment to this location and to those priorities is really going to help advance those goals that we have in turn at the city. As the museum's architecture team and chief planning officer have continued to work closely with my team at the Department of City Development, with other city departments as well, so delighted to be here to represent DCD and Milwaukee City government for this public release of the design. Mayor Johnson has a vision of growing the city's population to 1 million people. It's bold, inspiring institutions like MPM and our other cultural and educational assets that are going to help advance this mission and make Milwaukee the phenomenal place to live, work, play, succeed that we all want and that all of our residents deserve. I also appreciated what Secretary Cole had to say about what we are creating for our future residents, for the children to come. I've got 3 daughters, and the museum has been an important part of their upbringing. This is absolutely true. My youngest daughter, as the pandemic was easing, remember those times? The first place she wanted to go was to the museum. She asked if she could have a friend, and can we go to the museum? This is a teenager, and it warmed my heart. And my partner and I, we've got a little boy on the way this fall, and I can't wait for him to see this this new building that's going to be unveiled today. So I want to thank everyone for being here today, joining the museum for this announcement, and for making this project a reality. Thank you.
So I want to thank all of our elected officials, and I was just notified that we actually have an additional county supervisor here that I would like to acknowledge. County Supervisor Sheldon Wasserman is also here. So please join me in thanking all of our elected officials who have made this project possible. Now I know you want us to unveil that building, but before we get to that big moment, it is important to share a little bit about how we got here. When it became apparent that a new building was our only viable path forward, we saw this as an opportunity to continue our tradition of being a museum of the people, for the people. We've engaged with thousands of people from across the state through focus groups and listening sessions, from tribal and cultural leaders to farmers and teachers, to kids, parents and grandparents, scientists, artists, naturalists, business leaders, and residents of and near the Haymarket neighborhood. Through these conversations, we've asked people what they want in this new museum. And we've heard the same messages repeatedly. People want an iconic building that is one of a kind. They want to be reminded and inspired by the nature and culture that make Milwaukee and Wisconsin special and unique. They want a gathering place that's accessible and welcoming to all. And they want a museum that will stand the test of time. So with the wisdom of our community influencing every aspect of the process, our world-class design team has been hard at work creating something beautiful and tangible to represent our collective greatest hopes. So without further ado, let's take a look at our future.
Let's go to the museum. It's what every kid, and kid at heart, loves to hear. Those magic words bring a wave of memories, dreams, and possibilities. Since 1882, the Milwaukee Public Museum has been a home to scientific, cultural, educational communities, and curious minds from all over the state. MPM shapes futures and creates wonder within us all. It's where we connect with cultures and the natural world. The museum takes us to other countries, galaxies, and special, faraway places. But what if the special place is right here? The Milwaukee Public Museum is creating a new wonder in Wisconsin, a world-class must-visit museum. Inspired by the state's unique geological history, its diverse cultures, and the confluence of 3 rivers at the heart of Milwaukee. Our new museum will be conveniently located in downtown Milwaukee, next to the Deer District and accessible to everyone. This museum has always been there for our communities because it was made by our communities. And now, it's this generation's turn to rise to the moment and secure the future of this community treasure. It's time to create a new wonder for Wisconsin, and that begins with you.
You know, every time I see that, I get choked up. I just get so excited for our future. You know, this is unique, it's iconic, and it is inspired by this great state and the city of Milwaukee, which you'll learn about in a few moments when we invite the design team to come up here. Together, we are creating a new wonder for Wisconsin. A world-class must-visit museum that's alive with the wonders around us and that unleashes the wonder within us. The initial public funding invested by the county and state have put us on a path to success, but only private philanthropy can drive this project forward and get us across that finish line. To tell you more about how we can together make this project possible, I'd like to introduce 2 of our honorary capital campaign co-chairs, 2 of my favorite people, Jay and Madonna Williams.
Good morning. Oh, that is quite a film. Agree with you, Ellen. I think it put a tear in all of us. Yikes. I'm Madonna Williams, my husband Jay. I have been coming to this museum personally. Well, I could be a dinosaur, but probably more a relic. I have been coming to this museum for over 65 years myself. So I remember when the museum was in the original library building, so very long time. What a wonderful place. Thank you, Ellen. That was just I'm speechless about what we just saw, frankly. Anyway, the thing that will inspire and bring people here, I think from the MPS student who is just awestruck by what they learn and see, the kids that come here from all over our state and beyond, and the parents and grandparents who bring their kids here. I have to say, Jay and I have not only spent time with our grandchildren here, we have slept here overnight with the relics and the dinosaurs. But also the college student, the graduate student who is doing their important work, whether it be botany or studying indigenous peoples. That is what our museum is all about. And we truly will be inspiring lives and connecting our communities. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, my friend. I'll make a vow not to refer to you as a relic. But I want to thank everyone for being here today. Madonna and I are both thrilled and honored and proud to be involved in the campaign. We have a lot invested here at the museum. And to me, it's really important to reflect that we do have a world-renowned, world-class natural history museum here in Milwaukee. And you saw the date of when we were incorporated, 1882. I would let you know, I always like to rub this into my friends in Chicago. It was 11 years before the Field Museum, okay? It was the same year that National Geographic Society was founded. So we have this wonderful history. And I think as all the good work of the team here at MPM shows you, that it's really time that we have a new home. And we are just excited and thrilled to be part of it. So thank you. As you heard, this is the largest cultural project in Wisconsin's history. This is a bold project, and it takes a bold investment. You know, we're needing to raise $240 million to bring this future museum to life. And so many are joining in this effort because of the impact it has on our communities, and it will be equally as bold. We are pleased to share with you today our state and county governments have been joined by 72 cornerstone donors, including every member of the MPM board, to seed this project with $110 million. We want to thank all of you with the purple donor ribbons on your name tags as you have generously been part of this $110 million. The $110 million allows us to be almost halfway to the $240 million goal. People are jumping into this project with such enthusiasm because they know our new museum will deliver educational opportunities our community so desperately needs. I'd like to welcome our fellow campaign chairs, Lynn Bringle and Mike Van Asten, as well as some of our leadership cornerstone donors on stage, so we can thank you for all that you are doing for this community. I'm supposed to say, please join me in a round of applause, but I think we took care of that, so thank you. On the momentum that's building from our public and private supporters, and with the strength of our dedicated volunteer campaign leadership, I am proud today to announce the launch of the Wisconsin Wonders Capital Campaign. This 4-year campaign is to raise $130 million to allow us to open the museum in 2026. I love to tell the story about Peter Engelman. I think you're tired of the story, but I still tell it. Who was the principal of the German English Academy, and that's the predecessor of now the university school, who led his students on collecting expeditions throughout the natural sites of the city of Milwaukee. Those specimens, collected by school children, were the original first MPM collections. Peter Engelman and his students then built a museum in their school to house those collections. That was the first MPM. Through the years and through 4 different buildings, generations of civic leaders, scientists, educators, exhibit designers, philanthropists like you made the museum into a world-class institution. And as I think of the countless young people who first discovered the wonders of the world and a passion for science, world cultures, nature within our museum, one constant was clear. This museum has always been there for us because it was made by us. And now it's our turn. It is time for our partners, our leaders, for this generation to rise to the occasion and secure the future for this community of this community treasure so that we can inspire our children, advance our communities, catalyze a stronger future for Wisconsin and the world. The success of this project begins with each of us. The actions we take is a legacy we choose to leave today. Madonna and I hope that you will join us and all of our campaign leaders as cornerstone donors in this landmark campaign. Thank you.
I just want to thank Jay and Madonna for all of their leadership in this community and everything they've done, but especially for their leadership of this campaign. And thank you to all of the extraordinary supporters, our campaign chairs and cabinet leadership, the MPM board, future museum committee members, our dedicated public officials, and our incredible cornerstone donors for bringing us to this point. And I just want to stress that we are almost halfway there. We did that in the last a little over a year without a single photo or image of what we were doing, just based on a dream. And so we have momentum behind us, and we are going to make this happen. So please, please help us make this happen. Now, there's one more group that I want to introduce you to today. 18 months ago, we brought together a world-renowned group of architects, exhibit designers, and construction management to help us envision our future. Many of you in the room joined in other community members from throughout this city to actually participate in interviews of the finalists that we received in those proposals from across the world. And we are proud to be working with Ennead Architects, distinguished and leading designers of internationally renowned natural history museums. Ennead has paired with Milwaukee architectural firm Kaler Slater to help bring their design to life. While the work of the architectural team is the star of today's show, they would be the first to tell you that collaboration is the lifeblood of this project. They have worked closely with landscape architects from GGN, the exhibit design team from Think Design, and construction firms Mortensen and Alcon to get us to this point. So I'd like to welcome to the stage our incredible design team panel, and I want to welcome to the stage who's going to be actually facilitating this discussion, a woman who has kept this project moving forward, the driving force behind it, the real taskmaster. our amazing Chief Planning Officer, Katie Sanders.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Good morning, and thank you, Ellen. I am really thrilled to be working so closely with this very talented team. I think you can all agree, having seen the renderings, and their expert teams on this project. And so I'd like to introduce our panelists. Please make your way up to the stage, folks. They're going to be in this order. Todd Schliemann is a design partner at Ennead Architects and is our lead designer for the project. Jarrett Pelletier is a senior designer with Ennead. And Marissa Zweig-Trigger is the project design manager from Ennead. Making their way up here with their microphones. Our next panelist is Chris Ludwig, a designer with local partner Kaler Slater. And last but not least, Azura Cox is an associate with GGN Landscape Design. Let's give them a welcome. So while today's event is focused on the building design, we do have a couple additional team members from our exhibit design firm in the audience, Think Design. So Aronde and Tom, where are you? There they are. Can we just give them a hand? Our exhibit team's also been hard at work. They are brilliantly leading the exhibit design experience, and we'll be excited to share that with the public as we get further into that process. So these world-class teams of internationally renowned exhibit and architectural designers were intentionally brought on simultaneously early on in the project so that the building itself and the content inside tell an interconnected story. They were chosen based on their outstanding portfolios. Ennead's work includes the Shanghai Astronomy Museum, the Utah Museum of Natural History, the Rose Center for Earth and Space at the American Museum of Natural History, the Edelman Fossil Park, among many others. And Kaler Slater's portfolio includes the Milwaukee Art Museum's Calatrava Edition, the BMO Harris Tower, and the newly renovated Bradley Symphony Hall. These incredibly creative experts will bring the community's vision for Wisconsin's new Natural History Museum to life in the coming years. And we are so lucky to have them. As a native of Milwaukee, I am personally so proud of the work this team is doing to design and build a museum that is not just iconic and stunning, but also a physical representation of the museum's mission and our community. So, you want to hear from them. Let's dive into some of the major aspects of bringing this vision to life. The first question for you, Todd and Jarrett. The building design is heavily influenced by Mill Bluff State Park, which was created by Glacial Lake, Wisconsin 10,000 years ago. Can you talk about this and some of the other influences that inspired the design?
I think I'll go first. It's interesting to listen to what people have been saying, and what we've been hearing is they wanted an iconic building. Now, you can make an iconic building by throwing something shocking on 6th and McKinley, but it wasn't be good enough for what we were hearing. We needed to bring meaning to the icon. It needed to be of this place, which would make it unique, would make it Minneapolis, or Milwaukee or Wisconsin. Anyway. So it's interesting. What we did is we looked at nature, we looked at culture, but I wanted to talk about nature because it was interesting how water influenced the development through time and up until today of all of the landscape that represents this region. Back to the Silurian period, where you could actually see the imprint of 425 million years ago, to the period of glaciers, which gave us a lot of the landscape we see now and contributed to the ability to farm it and create the flora and fauna that's on it. And now to today, where the region is actually bracketed by water, the river on the west and the lakes to the east and north. And you'll see a little bit of the iconography of how we used water to soften the form, to give it meaning. Jared, you can talk a little bit more about that form making, but to give it the texture of the place. And even to the point where looking at Milwaukee itself and the history of its growth, and it's the beginning of itself on the Three Rivers, you'll notice actually when we go further down the road that the ground floor is based on the convergence of three pathways, three rivers, to a center, to a convergence point, where communities, now we get to culture, can come together, learn, educate themselves, understand their history, sort of contemplate the future, use that knowledge for generations to come to extend that 140-year history. And I'm talking too much. Jared, my partner, maybe you can go into a little more.
Sure. So Katie, you mentioned Mill Bluff State Park. And that experience was really amazing for many of us. That was part of a 7-day long journey that many of the people here on stage took with Katie and Ellen and others from the museum to really understand the place. I mean, Todd talked about why it's important that this building is grounded in place. So we couldn't claim to do that without first seeing the landscapes, but secondly, talking to the people. And I think many of us learned so many valuable lessons on that trip. And Mill Bluff is just one example, but it exemplified a feeling that we had throughout the trip, which we wanted to embody in the design of the future museum. And that was really about experiencing nature and culture, but in a way that is multi-layered, that slowly evolves as you begin to peel back the layers. It's not just what you see at a distance, but it's also what you see up close. It's also what you learn by exploring it. It's what you learn from standing on the top and seeing its friends and neighbors. It's really about these interconnected networks. So we wanted to imbue that in the design of the future museum. So what we talk about, and we can talk more about the details of this, are these sort of three layers that you see behind me. The base, which is about awe and wonder. And that's about what we felt when we were at the base of Mill Bluff. We looked up at those bluffs. We were just curious. We wanted to investigate it. We got to go up close to it. We got to learn by touching it, by feeling it, understanding where it came from, what it was made out of, how did what it was made out of inform local economy, what did people do here, why did certain people come to call this place home, and then the journey. So once you're inspired, you get into the belly of the museum, and it's all about that journey of walking up those stairs. You can see Ellen up there. She's ahead of me behind my camera. But it's not just the ascent, but it's everything that you see and learn along the way. It's all the conversations that we stop to have along that path, where we saw something on the side of the path or through the trees that we could point to and talk about. And then suddenly when you're at the top, a completely different perspective. Here at the tops of those bluffs, you could see how the other bluffs and ridges in the distance were formed. You suddenly understood that this place was part of Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, and what that meant to the people who came to call that place home. So you were given a new perspective, another one. So the next time that you would come, you would have that reinvigorated perspective. So it's really that journey and that exploration, that kind of slow unfolding that we wanted to embody in the design of the future museum.
Thank you. So today we get to see the building, but we've mentioned that a big part of planning for a new museum is also planning for that exhibit experience. And this has been a highly collaborative process. So Marissa, can you talk a little bit about how the design team has been collaborating with the exhibit team?
Sure. First, I'd like to say, as Katie had mentioned earlier, MPM brought the design team together to begin concept design at the same time. The design team is a wide net. It also includes other consultants, structural, MEP,